Hello, everyone. You're all very welcome to Underground Cinema. We're just two weeks away. Sorry, yeah, we're a month away from the Underground Cinema Awards, the 15th awards. They're on in the Royal Marine Hotel in November, the 16th of November. And at the moment, what we're doing is on the run up to the awards, we are trying to interview as many directors and filmmakers and actors as humanly possible who have been nominated for an Underground Cinema Award this year. I'm delighted to say I've got a really great friend with me there today, Craig Moore. You're very welcome, Craig.
Hey Dave, how are you?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. And we were just chatting a little bit just before you came on. So we go back 10 years, Craig, when you first sent your work into us. That was Any Last Words, and that was with two brilliant actors. You had Graham Early was in that particular one, who you worked with again, and a great friend of mine, George Bracebridge.
Two legends of the game.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then a couple of years back, then you'd sent into us Three Brothers Two again with Graham. That was back in 2020. That was just God, that was just after COVID, really. If you remember, Craig, you were at the awards in Dunleary. It was our smallest awards because we were only really allowed to sort of to socialize again. But it
Yeah,
was great to be able to do it.
absolutely. Yeah, we made the most of it, didn't we?
Absolutely, yeah. And you picked up Graham picked up best actor that year. Aaron picked up best supporting actor, and they picked up the best film award as well. So it was
Mm,
great. It was a great year. Great, a great end to a really difficult time. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, definitely. It was a long road because we shot that before COVID, and then, like a lot of other people, you kind of get left with a process where you feel like you've got a film, but you're not quite sure what's going to actually happen with it, or if you're going to be able to do anything with it at all. So, we ended up having a really great run, and the ceremony in Dunleary was kind of our it was almost like an unofficial rap party of sorts because of the way things went, and obviously it was great that we won a few awards as well. So
yeah, yeah. It was a great night, and it's a fantastic film as well, and it thoroughly deserved the awards that it won that year. Your style is very different in this particular film. It's very different to the previous two. Yet again, you're using Graham again for the third time. I mean, he's such a talented actor. But I knew you were making this. I remember the post going up on social media. You had the title already ready to go. Barry versus the Binman. I remember you posting on social media, and I said, "What a cool title! What's he up to now? No, Barry versus the Binman."
yeah,
So I was dying to find out what this film, because I was so used to the other two films, that sort of style of film.
yeah,
I was wondering what the hell is this one going to be all about, and it really took me by surprise. It did. Maybe you could tell everyone, just give us a synopsis about Barry and the Bin Man and what it's all about.
yeah. Sure. I mean, obviously, then to jump off from what you were saying about the other two films, they were kind of more dramatic, more dark, more gritty. They had a style to them that I kind of drew from, like, the works of like Shane Meadows and things like that. This is
Yeah,
England. That kind of very intense drama style, very grainy, gritty, and real. Very authentic feeling. And then for this one, it actually came about that Westmeath County Council announced that I'm a Westmeath man as well. Obviously, I should point that out. Any Last Words, or both Any Last Words and Three Brothers Two, were both shot in Westmeath. But Westmeath County Council finally announced that they were implementing a film award. So Western Front, the production company, came to me, and they were looking for people who were Westmeath based to front the award for them. And the turnaround time for a lot of these awards, I'm sure a lot of people who are watching who have applied for them will know, the turnaround time can be quite tight. You're given approximately kind of 4 to 5 weeks to get all your materials together and submit it. But I didn't have anything when they approached me. I had a lot of other things going on in my life at the time. There was kind of bits and pieces that were taking me away from film. But I said yes, absolutely, and I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do now? So, like a lot of things, like Three Brothers 2 is inspired by real life experiences that I went through. Um, so I was like, okay, I'll go back to that pool, that pool of inspiration. And Barry versus the Bin Man actually came from a story that a friend of mine told me about a Barney that he had with his bin man, and they kept leaving the bin in the wrong driveway, and eventually it all blew out of proportion, as these things tend to do sometimes irrationally. And I thought, okay, there's your starting point, there's your story. And I decided to go a different direction. We made it a comedy, which was the first for me. I never thought I would ever make a comedy, especially not one like this. So I had to draw on other inspiration. So we went more kind of an Edgar Wright, quick paced and visual gag kind of route. And Graham, obviously, myself and himself being so close, he was on board straight away, and he was like, "I want to play Barry." He didn't want to play the bin man; he wants to play Barry, and it kind of just snowballed from there. We had a great team then, and we shot it in Mullingar again. We shot it in Mullingar in January, in a freezing cold January.
Yeah. Listen, I have the trailer here, Craig. So let's just play the trailer. Just give everyone a little taste of Barry versus the Binman.
Perfect.
Oh, Barry, I brought your bin back.
Brought it back. What are you doing with bin in the first place?
They keep leaving it in my driveway, so... How's your mental health? I'll talk about your mental health if you want to talk about it.
Wait! That's not my bed!
What a fantastic trailer. It's so cool.
Thank you.
It's like watching the Guy Ritchie trailer. I love the music to it as well.
Yeah. Oh, I have a habit, like I always edit the trailers for my own stuff as well, so this one was no exception.
Yeah. And we forgot to mention earlier, we should have mentioned it. John Connors is back now. John's absolutely he's Graham's next door neighbor. He's the guy he comes out every morning and he's out with his leaf blower. Craig, can I just start off? Where did the idea come from? I mean, it seems just such a simple idea. Where did it come from?
Again, there's a lot of that's rooted in reality. There's always, everybody has had a nightmare neighbor at some point in their life, and again, I remember somebody complaining to me about their neighbor going out with the leaf blower, and it's a visual that kind of always stuck in my head as well, because 99 times out of 100 they're out doing that particular act of leaf blowing for the sake of it, because they're not actually making an impact. There's no rhyme or reason to it. So it just seemed like a funny image to me, to have in the film, and to be the spark that starts Barry off on this particular mood that he ends up being in for the majority of the film, because it is very irritating.
Yeah, like his humor escalates into almost an obsession. I mean, really, Barry's frustration really stems from his breakup with his girlfriend, and he projects it onto the bin man, and I suppose he does it with his neighbor as well. It's a form of release.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. It's a guy who's down on his luck and having a hard time in life, and he has nowhere really to put that kind of frustration and anger that he has. So these little things get blown into Lord of the Rings epic proportions inside his head.
Yeah, like to me, it was like the obsession of the bin is almost symbolic of his inability to deal with other life issues.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And Sorry, go on, Craig.
Go ahead. No, you go first. I would be
No,
curious to see if we're going to say the same thing.
no. I mean, you mentioned the Westmead Film Award, and I was actually talking to again Alan Dunn, another brilliant filmmaker, about it yesterday. And isn't it great to see local county councils starting to recognise independent filmmakers and independent cinema? So it started for me back about 8 years ago. Kildare County Council, I was involved with Lucina Russell from Kildare County Council. Shortgrass Films, she set up an organisation which is really Kildare County Council, called Shortgrass Films. And the initiative there was to look for scripts that could be shot and developed in County Kildare. So it was like a bursary. There was money there for it. So she asked me to go on the panel back in those days. And what happened was that there was a number of shorts that came into us. Gridlock won it that year. They got the funding, which starred Mo Dunford. But the great thing about the whole thing was, apart from the money, was the fact that the county council was able to, like in Gridlock, they needed a road shut down. So the county council had that ability to just shut down a road, no problem at all. If you or I had to go to a county council, ask them to shut down a road, it'd be next to impossible. Or get locations, like we were talking to Alan there yesterday, where he had mentioned in Offaly County Council, where he shot his film called Where It All Began. They were able to, get permission to shoot in the graveyard. They got the local community involved, so that sort of, with local county councils now starting to sort of recognize the importance of independent filmmaking. These schemes are invaluable, really, aren't they?
They really are, yeah. And I'm sure you've, in the years that you've been doing it now at this stage, you'll know what it's like for people who are submitting films who had no money, and the kind of the creativity that you have to have in order to get something made when you have nothing. And these bursaries are an excellent stepping stone for people, because it's not an egregious amount of money. You're not going to create something massive with it, but if you're smart, you can make that money go a long way. You still have the same kind of problems that you have when you're making things for nothing, because we made Barry for 10 grand, and I mean, as far as I'm concerned, it's all up there. It's the important thing is making sure it all gets up on the screen as well, every cent, regardless of what amount of money you have. I mean, my kind of own mental rule was, whatever it costs, make it look like it costs 3 times that, whatever way you can. Somehow. So having these bursaries, it gives people that little bit of a bridge and the bit of experience of what it is to have a bit of support, and then what you do after that is on you as a creator. So
yeah, I love the edit and the score in this go almost hand in hand. You're up for an edit award along with Rossa as well, and the score is up as well. I mean, the score is absolutely fantastic. Did you guys work to collaborate before?
No. Myself and Rossa went down to Westport. So Brian and Emer Durkin, they're from Westport. Western Front are based in Mayo. So we took a little break when we were done, and about 3 weeks after we finished shooting, I went down to Westport, and we kind of hatched in their lovely home, and myself and Rossa just hacked the shit out of it, excuse my French. And then Padraig, Ryan, who's the composer, he actually came in quite late to the process. Our original composer wasn't able to do it anymore due to just the timing of it. So he came in quite late, and he managed to turn the score around in I think it was about 3 weeks. So wow. He did a magnificent job. And the only notes I had to kind of give him were score this as if it was an epic, because obviously to Barry, this whole thing is a big deal. So to have big kind of powerful soundtrack behind them, it made a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I really think that the score added to the film tremendously. I thought it was fantastic, and the beats were really, really good in it, right the way through. It just sort of made it. I'm gonna tip my hat off to the Binman himself, Brian Matthews. He's a good friend of mine as well. It was great to see Brian.
Yeah.
He really looked like a Binman. He'll go mad when he hears me saying that.
Well, funnily enough, when I got Brian on board, I had never worked with him before. I knew of him, but I had never worked with him before. And it was the one part that we were really struggling to fill. And he came down to Mullingar, and the bin company that supplied the lorry for us, Miledes, said we are happy to have an actor involved and interact with the bin lorry, but they have to undergo the training and
Right.
protocols course. So Brian rocked up, and I told him about this, and he goes, "Oh no, I don't need to do that. I was Binman already."
Right.
So he worked for Wicklow County Council. So he was like, "Oh no, this is easy for me. Just let me have a chat with the driver." And then an hour later, he was ready to shoot.
Yeah, listen, I'm a big fan of Brian because he's a real hardworking guy, and I think he's a very important guy in the independent cinema scene as well. He's from Wicklow,
Yeah,
and he's got Wi-Fi down there. That's a collective of actors and filmmakers and writers who get together quite frequently to make as many shorts as they possibly can in the year. They're constantly going, and they meet up every month in Bray. I think it's great that he keeps this momentum going. So he's a really nice fella. There was one thing that we did this year at Underground Cinema we've never done before, and that was to an award for the first AD. You've never seen an award for a first AD before, and the reason why I felt it's a really thankless job. There isn't an Oscar for it. There isn't an IFTA for it. There isn't an award for first AD. And when you're on a set, the first AD is critical. He's absolutely critical. Without the first AD, it'll all fall apart. I mean, the first AD, he or she has got to be a real people person. They've got to have, they got to switch personalities from one person to another. They save you money. Certainly when I was working on my feature, without my first AD, we probably would have went way over budget. They're crucial. So we decided that to create a first AD award this year, we asked the directors and writers and producers to write into us and tell us why your first AD should be nominated this year. You wrote us a fantastic letter, and you nominated John Anderson Jr. You're not the only one that nominated John. Actually, he was nominated by a team down in Limerick as well. There was a student film down in Limerick, wrote a glowing letter as well for him. That was who he was. I'm just checking here. Rat King down in Limerick, who's up for best student film. He was the first AD on that as well, and they wrote a fantastic letter for him as well. So I have not met him, but as soon as we read everything that you had sent to us and the guys down in Limerick sent to us, it was a no-brainer. He had to get a nod. What do you think of that new award, Craig? Do you think it's a good idea?
I do. As you say, it's kind of one of those thankless jobs that doesn't get a whole lot of recognition from anybody, actually. Even during production, sometimes they're kind of the public enemy, as well for a lot of people, because they're always the ones that are trying to keep you in line. But yeah, no, it's a great idea to recognize first ADs, because having taken on that role for other people as well myself, there is a surprising amount of pressure. You would expect there to be pressure considering the nature of it, but then there's even more on top of it that you didn't expect. So I think it's great that you've chosen to give them a bit of recognition, especially, as you say, because no one else really does.
Yeah, you'd mentioned in your letter, John in particular, he had to basically deal with because this film is shot in a housing estate. Yeah, it's in Mullingar. You said it's shot in a housing estate. So you rightly mentioned in your letter, you gotta. He practically he had to go around to the residents where the film was being shot, or speak to the residents on the street to explain what was going on, and probably ask people to keep out of shot, or just to placate them and make sure that nobody was getting a bit upset with you can't go down this road, you can't go down that road.
Yeah.
It's not easy, because you could be dealing with something that's quite difficult.
Yeah, and the unknown. There's always an unknown element as well, and our unknown element was the fact that we were shooting with a bin lorry. That was it was quite a sizable prop, shall we say. And then you have Graham chasing after it in his loungewear as well, which is quite a sight.
Yeah.
But the estate that we were filming in was so big that it would have taken us weeks and weeks and weeks to actually talk to every single resident. It just wouldn't be possible with the manpower that we had. And I think I mentioned it in the letter as well. Like, John kind of stopped Barry versus the Binman from becoming People in Mullingar versus Craig Moore, with how he handled a lot of the stuff, and kept everybody safe. So,
Yeah, he did a fantastic job. And just tell me, how many days were you shooting there in Mullingar?
we shot for 3. We shot
Okay.
for 3, and then we had a half day of small inserts, which we shot indoors in another location. It was also in Mullingar, but it just wasn't in the housing estate.
Okay, yeah. The film scene is really picking up in Mullingar, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's always been a town that has been kind of renowned for its creativity, but a lot of that creativity has been kind of limited, not limited, but focused on music.
Yeah.
Rightly so. In fairness, it does have a great musical heritage, but I think it's probably time that heritage has been expanded a bit, and Westmeath Filmmakers Collective is doing a lot of work to do that.
Yeah.
They had their first keynote last month in Mullingar, which went down really well. And the important thing, I suppose, for that was that there was a lot of people who had never made a film before involved. It wasn't just film people going to another keynote event. There was fresh perspectives.
Yeah. And I'm just this film now has been on the film festival circuit for over a year now, Craig. Yeah, it's gone down really well. It's more than a year, isn't it?
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, we premiered at Richard Harris actually this time last year.
Yeah. And how's the festival run so far?
Very fruitful. Again, as I'm sure a lot of people watching will probably know, there's always a bit of a lull. You always get those kind of quiet 2 or 3 months in the middle of your run, and then you'll get 5 or 6 hits in the space of 3 weeks, and then you have the hard questions of which one can I actually go to. Those are the ones that always pop up. But yeah, no, it's been good. We've been in after Richard Harris. We were in Foyle, and then we were abroad. We were in the States. I was in Chicago in March, and it went down really well. And
that was my next question, Craig. Was for an international audience, how did it go down? So were you in Chicago?
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. Great. Yeah, absolutely. And how did it go down?
It went down really well. It was great to be part of that particular festival as well, because it's an Irish-centric film festival. Yeah. And there was a lot of great films there this year, from features all the way down to shorts and documentaries. And we were in a big kind of typical American AMC style multiplex, which was always a nice experience to have to get into an elevator, to go up and watch your film. It's quite surreal. But the audience really, really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I just want to go back to just casting again. Now, we know you have a really good, strong relationship with Graham. You've been buddies together for years, and you work really well together. So, John, how did you manage to swing John on board?
So, John, I've known for about 10 years as well.
Right.
Because for years, I started off, my career in film started off with me as a set photographer. That's how I got to know people. I used to just rock up and tell people that I'd take photos on their sets for free because they were very valuable. And I got to know people. And then after a couple of years, when the time came, I had a good pool of contacts and a good group of friends that I could then draw into my conniving schemes. And I also worked in RTE as a production assistant, and this would have been around the time that John was still, Love Hate was still on the air. So I had met him in passing, and that was still on. And then we made Monged together, which was the film-based feature in 2015. And Graham was in that as well, of course. He's everywhere. But I was a producer on that. I wasn't a director. But we always kept in touch, and I have worked on bits for him, and he's thrown a bit of work my way, and he always said that he would be interested in working with me as a director rather than as a producer or a production manager or anything like that. So it seemed kind of fitting that this would be the part for him.
Yeah, he's been nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He's totally well deserved. I think it's John's second time nominated with us. He's just such a great actor, and he's brilliant at comedy. He really is great at comedy. His comedy timing's fantastic.
He is very funny, I have to say. Even in real life, he always strikes me as someone who would be closer to the character of Shane than any of the other characters that he's played in anything else. He's very naturally charismatic and funny.
Yeah. So, what's next, Craig? Have you got anything in the pipeline?
Well, thankfully, I didn't make a balls of directing John, because we're hoping to do a feature next, and we've gotten to the 4th draft stage now. So we're getting pretty emotionally attached, shall we say, to the project at this point. And we're hoping to kind of get it moving next year. And
fantastic. Without giving it away, are we looking at a drama or comedy, thriller, horror?
We're going back to a thriller. Yeah,
you're going back to a thriller. Okay, fantastic. So you're in the 4th draft at the moment, so you must be pretty close then.
Yeah, we are. Graham, again, Graham's never too far away from a Craig Moore project or a John Connors project either. So he's going to be involved in a big capacity too. And we're getting there. We're very excited. In fact, I was talking to Graham about half an hour ago, and our conversations tend to always start with him kind of sending me a voice note of a paragraph from one of the scripts that I've written, and he's already performing it in character. So just to give me the flavor, So yeah, we're getting pretty close to something that we can push on with.
Fantastic. It's just I can't wait to see a feature by you, Craig. I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fantastic. I mean, that's what a lot of it's great to see so many features coming out now at the moment, Craig. It really is, because when we first started at Underground Cinema 15 years ago, it was just like short films. It was really the very first feature we screened, I think, was actually Charlie Casanova back. That was 14 years ago. But after that, there were very few and far between. But over the past, say, five years, there's so many Irish independent features being made at the moment. We had to put an independent feature category in. We started doing that about 7 or 8 years ago. And what I think is very encouraging as well is that we're now seeing films like, if you look at Marcia Carl's film and Sinead O'Riordan's film, Swingbout in the cinema, like if you look at Bass Black's film, Dublin Crust, and look at Paddy Slattery's film Broken Lawn. I could go on and on and on. These are all now getting 4, 5, 6. I think Sinead's on to Morris are on to 5 weeks now. Tony Kelly, I was interviewing Tony Kelly there the other day. Tony's film The Hurler, we've got a 6-week run. So I think it's absolutely fantastic that the likes of, the IMC, Omniplex are now actually, they are now realising that there is a market for independent Irish cinema. They wouldn't be screening the films for that length of time if there wasn't a market for it, So it's fantastic.
It is, yeah. It's important as well because obviously we live in a particular era now where it's very easy to make something and then just have it on a particular service.
Yeah.
There's something that's probably more accessible.
Yeah.
But I think it is important, maybe not on principle, but or a novelty standpoint, but it is nice to be able to have your film, even if it's only for a couple of weeks, on a big screen somewhere, because that is the experience that you're in the game for. I mean, even now, like I've been to loads of festivals, and even though Barry's only a short, watching audience reactions is there's nothing quite like it.
Yeah, it looks like, and it's something that I'm going to delve into a little bit deeper. We might do a few more interviews after the awards and start talking to the likes of, Sinead and Baz and a few of the others that have had their films, and Tony, and that have recently had the films in the cinemas. Because if I go back, 7 or 8 years ago, it was very difficult to negotiate with a cinema. To get a film into the cinema was next to impossible. And if you did get a cinema that was interested, the deal, the percentage box office was very, very poor for the filmmaker. It really was. So I'm sure things that must have changed a bit, and that the cinemas now are maybe there should be a sliding rate maybe for indie cinema going into instead of the typical box office could be 30%, to the filmmaker. That should be increased for an indie filmmaker, just to give them a leg up,
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to hear from the guys that have been in cinema recently what their take is on it. The best time to do it is probably when the run is way over, 6 or 7 months down the line, not now, because they're too into it now at the moment. But when it's all over, it'd probably be a good time to talk to them to see, was it worth it? Did it work for them? Did it bring new opportunities to them? Did they get recognized, in other countries as a result of it? Did they get any more sales? Did they get any TV sales? It'd be really interesting to hear a lot more of that, because I think we're starting to go into a new wave. If cinemas are starting to take Irish indie cinema serious and give them, 4 to 6 weeks run, I think we're going into a new period in Irish cinema.
Absolutely. And the big thing for me that I've noticed anyway is that we seem to be, rather than raising the ceiling, we're raising the floor. And what I mean in that sense is that the ceiling was always quite high. We were always very good at making good films and telling good stories. But in years gone by, only 1 or 2 of them might sneak through and leave a lasting impression. But now it seems that the floor is coming up. There's more films of a consistent quality that are actually starting to compete with each other and with other films as well, despite the fact that they're only given a very limited little slot when it comes to their release. So it is important that the floor keeps being brought up rather than the ceiling, because what's that old saying about the rising tide brings up all ships?
Yeah,
it's that kind of a vibe, and hopefully that's kind of the trend that we're on.
fantastic. Well, I look forward to when your ship sails, Craig, with your feature film. I wish it's having done one myself. It's so time consuming. Like, it takes 3 years out of your life.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, absolutely.
that's how I felt. We spent a year on pre-production. A year, the shoot itself, a year in post production, and then there's all the festivals and all the sales and all the distribution afterwards. So it's a huge, 3 years of your life. It's a big chunk of your life devoted to it. So you have to be very passionate about it. You live and breathe it. You're waking up every morning thinking about it and don't sleep. So it's I don't envy you, but I know you're going to pull it off, Craig. You've got youth on your side.
I'm all in. I'm all in down at this point. No choice.
Great. Well, look, Craig, we're going to wrap it up. Listen, thank you so much for chatting to us tonight. We're so delighted that you've picked up the nominations for the awards this year. It's a great achievement. It's a fantastic film, and we can't wait to see what you're going to pull out of the bag with this feature.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the nominations. Appreciate the support in the past and the support that you're giving now. It's always something that's remembered, and I'm very much looking forward to being back in the Royal Marine again. And before I go, I'll be crucified if I don't give them another shout out. But I just want to kind of especially mention Brian and Emer, who are also going to be there that night, and not just for Harry, but for the fact that they've got is it 2 other nominated films?
The Western Studios have done absolutely fantastic. So we're looking. I was in touch with Emer there recently, and Brian's coming along as well. So it'll be a fantastic night. You guys will all be sitting together at that magic table.
That might be a terrible idea or the best idea ever. We'll find out.
Fantastic. Okay, Craig. We'll see you in November then.
You will indeed. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Take care.